What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Noel Janae podcast. I'm your host, Noel Janae. Hi, this is my biannual, buy whenever I want, podcast where I yap. And that's pretty much what it is. I yap a lot. The last episode, we did a 2024 recap, and it is currently the month of February. January went by so fast. Um, and it's been wild to just exist, I guess. January I feel like was so slow and yet it went by so fast. I started my last semester of undergrad. I am working with our music and worship club uh, way more now, training a leadership, well, not really training, but, overseeing kind of a leadership team now that will continue after I graduate. I submitted my application for grad school. That we'll talk about that in a minute. And I have just been trying to keep up with work. I'm in a few classes. There's been a lot of roadblocks that the devil has been trying to get me out of some things, but the Lord is faithful and he's just been working miracle after miracle, and that's what we're going to talk about today. It's kind of the beginning of an ending season. How you know just kind of, I guess I'm going to share my Lee story a little bit just in case I don't get to do a speech at graduation. This will be my speech for graduation. And so if you didn't know, I am a senior music and worship major at Lee. I am in my 6th year of my degree. So, yeah, I've been here forever. I'm not leaving, at least right now. It's really funny. I graduated from high school in May of 2019. I started at Lee August of 2019. I was a music education major when I started at Lee. And I thought that's what I was going to do. I thought that, I was going to go, be a high school choir director, impact kids' lives, like my choir director in high school did for me. But that is not what the Lord has called me to do. And I learned that very quickly. And, there's always that saying, if you want to do anything other than music, you shouldn't be a music major. And I wholeheartedly disagree with that. I think be a music major if you want to, if you feel like God has called you to be. And yes, you can have other options. Like I always say, to kind of combat that kind of thinking, if I wasn't a music major, if the Lord had not called me to do this, then I would have been a history major. And I love history. My emphasis, my concentration would have been ancient history. I would have loved to have taught history in the classroom. So, the Lord didn't want me to be a history major. I did think about minoring in history for a hot second. I used to have a French minor. We'll get into that. So I, hi Domino. Mommy's recording. You can't be up here. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah. You've literally been napping with me all day. Come here. Do not eat my chocolate. It's my chocolate. I got the Hue dark chocolate with cashew butter and pure vanilla bean. It's so good. Yeah, we're gonna settle here. We're gonna settle here, Domino. Okay, anyway. So music education major. And freshman year Noelle, didn't know what she was doing. Completely. No one explained to me how to be a music major. No one explained to me how high the stakes were as a music education major. No one explained to me, all like how do you balance all the things, like, how do you balance being in an ensemble? I didn't know anybody going to Lee, except for my cousin Japheth, and he was a math major. Domino, your claws hurt, ma'am. I need to trim them. They grow so fast. Um, but I had a fantastic roommate. We're still friends to this day. Um, and we lived in a tiny dorm room, like literally the size of a closet. And we were both music majors. And we were just like, no one explained how to do college. Like, no one. Which I think is why I have such like an emphasis in when I'm talking to people in like especially underclassmen and the freshmen and the sophomores. This is how you survive college. This is how you balance. Make sure you get enough rest. Make sure you eat. My first finals week, there was one day I drank like 3 cups of coffee and drank like 6 monsters, and that's not healthy, okay? Especially as someone with a heart condition. So, learn basically a learn from my mistakes. I've had a lot of failure in my time as a college student. I tell people I feel like I just started, actually knowing what I was doing in the past couple of years. I'm out of water. I need to refill my water. I'm drinking out of my Circle bottle. I have the mixed berry flavor. It's electrolytes. So y'all know I'm doing the carnivore diet. I'll do an episode about that. I filmed an episode talking about it on my YouTube channel, so go check that out. But more carnivore content coming soon, I guess. But yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. There was no guidance. I was terrified to talk to professors because there's that huge, stigma. I feel like high school did not prepare me well for college. So yeah, it was just I was a hot mess. And so, freshman year, I was in an ensemble. The spring semester of 2020, I had just come back from the UK for the first time. With my high school choir, I went as an alum and as a chaperone. I was the most responsible adult on that trip. I kid you not, and I was 18. And fell in love with the country. I fell in love with London. Um, and it was such a life changing trip for me. I learned a lot about myself. I learned that I was actually a very capable person, more capable than I thought I would have been. Um, I had the biggest crush on our tour guide. I think all the girls did, honestly. So there was that. I was capable, but I was also very immature. Um, immature. But I learned a lot of like life lessons on that trip. A lot of what not to do as a parent. I learned on that trip. Thank you, everyone. Um, so I came back, had the vid before it actually, we knew what it was. And then spring break, we were in DC, Philadelphia, DC, Pennsylvania. We went up north for our tour, and COVID hit while we were on tour. So I had to come back. We came back, from tour. We finished it out. I hopped on a plane, not at LAX, but at Chattanooga, flew out to Little Rock, Arkansas, because mom was out there. I was still living in Nashville at this time. And we were there because she was preaching a revival. Then we came back to Nashville and everything had shut down. I got an email while we were in Arkansas saying that we would not be returning to school for like a week or two. And then all of a sudden, we weren't coming back for the entire semester. So we went to Zoom. It was terrible. Yeah, it was so bad. But I applaud Lee and our faculty for for being able to pivot, even though it wasn't great, because every school was going through the same thing. They were all having to pivot, and you know, um, I really appreciate our faculty and staff who took it, gave grace to us students that were, locked inside our houses. Some kids not in the best, parental or familial situation. So yeah, I really, commend Lee for being flexible in that. So finished the semester out. I didn't have the best grades. I was have not always been the best student. Um, I think I got like really good grades in like elementary school, and then it was all kind of just like a downhill spiral from there. Um, I just never learned. I didn't learn how to apply myself. And that's not like the problem, was that I didn't teach myself how to apply myself to my studies because I was such a creative brain. I didn't know how to switch that and make academia creative, if that makes sense. Like, help me enjoy what I was learning. And also, most of the stuff I was learning was really boring anyway, so I just kind of like zoned out for most of it. And also, my teachers in high school, there was one teacher um who I was in his freshman English class, and all we did was watch movies. I think we may have read like two books, but from what I remember, we watched like Seabiscuit and like, read Lord of the Flies, which that is the worst book ever. Um, but yeah, it was just, and that was an honors English class too. That still blows my mind. That teacher then got fired. Anyway, for embezzlement. But going into my sophomore year, I don't remember most of my sophomore year. That was the year, let's see, this is 2021. This was the year that I had the terrible roommate situation. Um, and I won't go super deep into this because it's not any of y'all's business. At least like the finer details of it. But let's just say I had a roommate. We did not live together well. And it was just a really toxic situation. She ended up threatening to kill me in my sleep. I moved out. That was the end of the fall semester, and then spring semester, I was in my own room. I was not going to class. I was so depressed. I was so anxious, had a lot of suicidal thoughts, just so isolated and so alone. And that was also the semester I changed my major to music and worship. So I lasted about a year and a half um, in my music education major, and the Lord was like, you need to change. And then I changed my major, which you would think like, changed my life, which it has. Everything got better, but no, everything pretty much got worse. Um, so living alone in this dorm room, my grandmother, um, who I loved dearly, my biological father's side of the family, she died. The week after my spring break. So I spent spring break and a few weeks after in Nashville. She went down like that. The a Wednesday we find out that she has a huge brain tumor. The next Wednesday she died, literally in a week. And that was a week of very hard conversations, very just hard going day by day. Just very, it was very difficult. I was allowed to take my classes on Zoom, and I could not handle being at home. There was just too much going on, too much drama within my family, not with like my mom or my siblings and I, but with other parties involved. Um, there was just a lot going on, and I just could not handle being at home. I needed a routine. I needed things to take my mind off of it, and I wasn't able to apply myself at school, at home. And then I went back way earlier than I should have. I still, could not wrestle with the fact that like my favorite person, one of my favorite people in the world was gone. Um and so obviously I failed most of my classes. So there's a lot of failure in my story. But for some reason, God has wanted me to stay at Lee, and everything has worked out for good. So you know what? We're just holding on to His promises. Um, but I failed to mention the fall semester. This would have been 2020. Um, I was in Oral Skills 2, and I believe this was the fall semester. It might have been the spring semester. But I was in Oral Skills 2 with this guy, my professor. His name was Charlie Edholm. No, it was the fall semester because I got hit by the deer in November. Anyway, so Mr. Edholm, future Dr. Edholm, let it be known, he was like, I was going through this toxic roommate situation. I didn't feel like I could talk to anybody about it except for my mom because she was 3 hours away. And part of me was like, what's she going to do? Drive up here and deal with it? She did. But I didn't even tell her like the extent, but she could tell that things were not going well. Through the way, I was talking to her, through our conversations and stuff. It wasn't hard to like connect the dots that like something was really wrong. But this man, like, I don't think he like realizes how much he's had an impact on me. I mean, he's been gone for what, 3 years doing his doctoral program, or 2 years, maybe, yeah, 2 years, and I still talk about him as like a shining light in the School of Music. And he has this album, I've talked about it way too much. It's called The Eminent Frame. It's by his like little name, Though I Wander. And that album has been with me in some of the darkest moments of my life since, discovering it, and also some of the happiest moments of my life. I listen to it at least like once or twice a month. It's that amazing. Um, but it was like meeting someone who just kind of gets you in a way. And the way his music spoke to me was a way that like since then, like maybe one or two other artists have been able to speak to me. On like, this sounds really woo woo and like really like, I feel like I'm over romanticizing this. I promise I'm not. This is just how I feel. Like on a soul, we connected on a soul level. Ugh. Anyway, I hated that. I personally feel victimized by myself. But that's just how I felt, and he's amazing. He's great. I never failed to like bring him up and be like, the School of Music was amazing because this guy was amazing. So then, spring semester came, Granny died. Then my junior year came and went. I started my battle with Theory and Oral Skills 3. That lasted 7 semesters. I kid you not. No, maybe 5 semesters. Maybe 5 semesters. I can't remember. But I finally won the battle last semester, so hallelujah. So we're not going to go into the Theory and Oral Skills 3 of it all, because I'm actually like friends with the professor now, and he's wonderful. Just his class was really hard. So junior year, nothing traumatic happened in my life. I was very grateful. Yeah. Then Senior year part 1 started. This was 2022 to 2023. The fall semester of 2022 was pretty chill. I don't remember much happening. Oh, I moved. I moved off campus. No, wait. I got to back up. Something did happen in 2021. The fall semester of 2021, my mom and I got COVID and she nearly died. And I also moved off campus. And those all happened at the same time. The day I moved into my apartment was the day mom and I got got the symptoms of COVID. We had just come back from Texas for my cousin's wedding, and we were not feeling well. We got myself moved in with the help of my wonderful family. And then, 2 days later, mom goes into the hospital for 5 days with COVID pneumonia, and she almost died. I can get her on the podcast and have her talk about her experience, because it's wild, what she saw in the hospital, what she felt in the hospital. I remember the first night she was in the hospital, I was laying in bed. I was so scared because I thought my mom was gonna die. More on that later because she did at one point. But I also thought I was gonna die. I was just laying on my mattress, literally. I remember I could barely breathe. My heart was not doing what it needed to do. I literally thought I was gonna lose my life during then. So that was 2021 to 2022. 2022 to 2023, my fall semester was chill. I always say that you know, I really just need to mark off spring break because something traumatic is going to happen in my life. So 2023, yes, March of 2023, I'm about to go on spring break. I'm just gonna chill all week. I'm gonna work because I was working at campus security at this time. I had started working there in 2021. And during that time, I think it's 2022 to 2023 was the year of heck. No. It was end of mid 2021 to mid 2022 was the year of heck, because I was working at Ross, and that's a whole nother episode of my experience with that. And I don't think I have an NDA with that. I don't think they made me sign anything when I quit, so I'll have to see. Because I don't want to get sued. But, so I'm laying in bed. I go to sleep one night, and I wake up. It's a wonderful March morning, and I'm on spring break. And I look at my phone, and my mother has texted me. Need you to come to Nashville and take me to the hospital after church and after the board meeting. Excuse me? What are you doing? Domino's going crazy is what's happening. Anyway, if you hear her zooming around, she's my cat. So I'm like, oh my gosh, we're doing this. So I pack a bunch of clothes, hop in my car, zoom to Nashville, take mom to the emergency room after church and after the board meeting. And I told her, I was like, so we're planning ER visits now. Good to know. Because we've been through this thing before. So she was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. I think a bunch of her arteries were clogged. She had not 3% heart function. What was it? Her heart was functioning at 30% or something. I'm gonna have to fact check that, but I think that's what happened. And she they thought at the time she needed triple bypass. Well, she doesn't have insurance. It's been a whole thing. TennCare is the worst. And, they had to wait until May. So I literally moved back home in the middle of my semester to take care of her because she could not have any stress. She couldn't drive, she couldn't cook, she couldn't do anything from herself because her heart literally would have given up. Oh, and my mom's home. So, she had bypass surgery in May. Um, it was 7 hours. It ended up being quadruple bypass. She died on the table, came back. It's been a whole journey. We talk about it more on our own podcast, the Real Mother Daughter Podcast. Plug, go listen to it. And so basically, I was home until May, and then I went to Virginia, did my internship there for a couple months, ended up having emergency gallbladder surgery while I was there. It was a whole thing. And then came home because I had to keep taking care of mom. And then spring of 2023, I moved back to Cleveland, went back to school, and was driving almost every weekend back and forth. No, I wasn't. I was in an ensemble. Yeah. No, I wasn't. That was spring of 2024. Wait. I got you. So, beginning of 2024 was... Are you videoing or? No, I have the mic. Oh, you're podcasting? I'm podcasting. What happened the beginning of 2024? Not much. I turned 23. I look it up on your calendar? I probably could. I know in 2024 I made my England trip. That was what, February? That was March. Yeah. That was spring break. Yeah. Let's look at what I was doing in the beginning of 2024. That's really just like the thing that like really matters is, bum 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 bum. Womp 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 womp. Wait, hold up. I was in sorry. I'll edit that. I was in an ensemble in the beginning, in 2024. And then I had my England trip. I can't remember if I've done a podcast episode about that. If I haven't, I probably will in the future. Just to yap about one of the best trips of my life. It was so fun. Very grateful I got to go. I talk about it more in my 2024 recap, if y'all want to go listen to that. But that semester was very hard. Just kind of, having to balance work, fun, school, and being in an ensemble again. Which I said in my 2024 recap, like, probably wasn't the wisest decision, but it was an interesting side quest. So did that, then worked all summer pretty much. Did a thing which the Lord really orchestrated and literally the best way ever, which I'm giving myself till like July until I can talk about it. And then mom moved in with me because of said thing that the Lord did. Yeah, which was a huge miracle. It really was. Like, it was a huge miracle. Like, we'll probably do a podcast episode probably in the summer talking about it. Because it was like, it's crazy how the Lord did it. And grew closer with my brother and sister in the process, which is super cool. Because we're all like adults and stuff now. And I say now because I'm the baby. So I'm like a proper adult. So I also was going back and forth to Nashville a lot. I was very stressed. Which I didn't even need to be stressed. I just didn't trust the Lord enough. That's what it was. I just didn't trust the Lord that he would pull through. And let me tell you, he pulled through that summer. big time, which I also covered in my 2024 recap. So I'm not trying to yap about stuff I've already talked about. Um, but did assembly also in the middle of that, and then mom moved in. She experienced Noel during a semester. Um, so that was mom. How was that for you?
It was fun. I knew about Noel during the semester because I've known about Noel her whole life.
Well, that's true.
So,
If you couldn't hear her, she said, I've known about Noel during a semester because I've known Noel my whole life. True. Oh, my whole life. Yeah. But I think it was funny because I think it was the most responsible I had ever been in a semester because mom was here and she's like this looming presence in my apartment, which I don't mind, obviously.
I tried to stay in my room.
I don't mind if you come out of your room most of the time. Yeah. But let me tell you, I passed all my classes last semester, which is like the first time I've done that in a few years, which was a very big improvement academically wise. And I think last semester I kind of just like stuck my head down and grinded. And also, I wasn't, buying into a bunch of drama that I didn't need to be involved in. And I think therapy has also helped me with this, because talking out things that I've experienced has made room for me to grow because all the junk that was piling up within me was released. And, I was able to kind of just like, I'm at the point in my life now where I'm like, if it's important, like, if it's like a friend or something like that and they need like some advice, like, I'll help them. But if it's someone coming to me to like get me involved in drama that's none of my business, I don't want any part of it.
I wonder why you came up with that, where you came up with that attitude.
I know, I got it from my mom.
Who
Who said
you're killing yourself with somebody else's drama.
Yeah, I was killing myself with somebody else's drama. Because throughout my Lee experience, I got into the wrong crowd a couple of times. And I was drinking, I was smoking weed, I was doing things that I ought not to be doing. And it wasn't like I was even doing it for a long period of time, but it was enough to like, not be, well, obviously it's not. I was derailed. That's what happened. Thank you. I needed help. But therapy and Jesus really are lifesavers, let me tell you. I should probably say Jesus and therapy. There we go. Put it in the correct order. But I've grown a lot during my time at Lee. I went from a literal, like, very confused 18-year-old to a slightly less confused 24-year-old. So we're growing. Domino, why are you licking the microphone? You're so cute. Okay.
She won't be that cute if she gets zapped by it.
True. That would be funny though. But yeah, I passed all my classes, which was great. Ow! Domino, your claws. Her claws are just sharp. Oh, don't bite my hand, ma'am. Love you though. Okay. So.
What happened in the church world?
What happened in the church world?
Your church world.
My church world? Well, I mean, I've been attending the same church for 4 years now. 5 years? 4.
6 years.
No, because I was at Turning Point.
Not for very long.
Not for very long, but then I was off and on at Spring Place.
Noel, you've been going there for 6 years.
Well.
You haven't spent enough time in any other church to say you've been going there.
True. I've been at my church, Keith Street, for 6 years. I used to attend North Cleveland's college ministry when it was still the Gathering and Noah Heron was still the college pastor over there. And so that's, yeah, I'm very involved in our youth. Um, you know, I'm just there. This, well, actually, I'm not done with last semester. I'm just yapping. Uh, so ended last semester on a very high note. It was very nice. Didn't cry through finals this last semester, which was wonderful. I wrote a bomb paper about Hosier and his theological, ideology and his lyrics, which is crazy. And I'll probably do an episode yapping about that. I may make that a YouTube video.
I think that ought to be published.
Yeah, I think it would be fun to be published. It's called Hosier, God, Irishness, and Sausages.
I think we need to put it on our podcast website.
Oh yeah, that we should put it on our podcast website. Um, so we made a couple of trips last semester too. I totally forgot about this. We went on a cruise.
Yep.
We went to Maryland.
Well, tell them where we went on a cruise to.
Oh yeah, we went to Turks and Caicos. Yeah, we drove down to Miami.
When didn't get a hotel room, slept in our car.
Yeah, we slept in our car on the way down. Because while this is happening, the hurricanes had just happened, I think.
Hurricane Helena or
Helene.
Helene.
Yeah. No, 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 no. It was the one coming to Florida.
No, it was Hurricane. It was the one that came to North Carolina. All that came Georgia. And
Oh, yeah, it was that. Well, there was Hurricane Helene had just come through, and there was another hurricane coming to Florida,
yep,
like right
on the heels of.
on the heels of Helene. So we went down. We uh, ported out of Miami on the Carnival celebration. We went to Grand Turk, Amber Cove, and Nassau. And we didn't get off the boat at Nassau because it was pouring down rain, but we did get off at Amber Cove and Grand Turk, and they are beautiful islands. So fun. Um, we had we had fun on the islands. It was that just like hanging out, getting food. We had some really good food, and we had just started. Mom had just started carnivore. She was like you were like a month into carnivore, I think. So, yeah,
I was 30 days in.
yeah, you were a month in, and then I had not started carnivore yet. Um, I was trying to do like the ancestral diet, but that did not work for me. So I'm now on the carnivore diet, which we'll cover that on our own podcast, the Real Mother Daughter podcast. I've already plugged it once, but I'm plugging it again. Go listen. So, yeah, I went to Disney very spontaneously. I was blessed with a trip to Disney from some family members. And it kind of came out of a not great situation. My uncle ended up in the hospital with a sore on his foot, which ended up getting infected. It was a whole thing.
More than one sore.
Yeah, more than one sore. And the Lord allowed it that mom lived here and lived a very similar experience. So she's now able to help him and help him navigate this situation along with his wife, my auntie. But they were going on a family vacation to Disney with their kids, my cousin's wife and her family. And of course, they weren't able to go. So I went instead. I talked about my whole trip in my 2024 recap. But it was such a fun trip. It was so nice to just like have a break from, school and stuff. Obviously, I was still doing schoolwork because this was, towards the end of my semester. But I was just able to like hang out with family that I, don't get to see very often. it was just very nice to just, ride roller coasters and have panic attacks on said roller coasters and eat good food. Um, yeah, Disney's fun. I enjoy Disney a lot. Despite the fact that they very much are against my values, but you sometimes you have to see past some things. But yeah, went to Disney, then ended the semester. Now we're at the end of the semester. And now we are in the year of our Lord 2025, and this semester has been a blast. Mom is a Lee student, so she is also in school now, finishing her bachelor's degree. She is a liberal studies major with a concentration in English and a Spanish minor. And I'm finishing up my bachelor's in music and worship. I have just applied for grad school at Lee, hoping to get a full time job there and have that pay for my master's degree, hopefully, if the Lord, orchestrates it the way I'm hoping, happens. Um, so yeah, it's a fun life we're living right now. Um, I'm in a few, classes to finish up my major, but I'm in a couple of really fun classes for me, which is Ministry of Prayer and First and Second Corinthians. And trying to get me to graduate this semester, we've come against a lot of like roadblocks financial aid wise, and the Lord has just been working out like everything. Like literally I'm sitting there and he's working out miracles like right in front of me. Um we had a really powerful moment in Ministry of Prayer on Thursday. That week we had been talking about unanswered prayer, and I just like, you don't realize how vulnerable, or not vulnerable, how overwhelmed you are with certain situations even when you invited, you know, I don't know where I was going with that. Anyway, um, but
You're talking about miracles.
yes. Well, I there was just like a moment where I just like kind of put myself out on a proverbial line, I guess, and the Lord just like moved in such a special and sweet way, and I was able to get prayer. And you don't realize how overwhelmed you are until you start talking about it sometimes. And it was just one of those things. And then the devil literally, not like literally, I think that day or the next day, was trying to get me out of that class. And I was like, in the name of Jesus, I'm staying in this class. And so literally the Lord made a way where there seemed to be no way. And I'm actually going to have a conversation with our head of music and worship program, who's one of my favorite people in the world. I love him so much. Domino. She's sniffing the chair because my mother was just sitting in it. She's such a weird cat. Anyway, about, the possibility of allowing, music and worship majors to take ministry classes as electives, because it's not a huge logical jump for people who are going into ministry to want to take more ministry classes, because we're already having to take, the STM major, core classes, New Testament, Old Testament survey, systematic theology. I'm gonna throw something on my cat. Please hold. Let me find what to throw. I don't have much. Okay. There we go. So yeah. So that's this semester so far. We're almost a month in to the semester. It's February 2nd right now, and it's starting off such a beautiful and wonderful semester. I'm graduating this semester if the Lord tarries, and yeah, he's so good. Um Obviously, I still have my struggles. I'm not perfect. I'll never be perfect until I get to heaven. Um, but the Lord has just been showing up in so many amazing ways, and I think my Lee story is just a testament to that the Lord is still good even throughout all of this stuff. And I didn't even go like cover, a few things that I experienced just because, you know, I forgot. um, until, after I'd, covered that semester and stuff. Um, but I think if my, Lee story has taught you anything, um, even when real life hits you hard, because real life doesn't stop just because you're in college. Like, having to move home, having to be a caretaker, trying to balance all these things, um, God is still faithful. He is still faithful even when, you know, all of life, heck has broken loose in your life. It seems like there's no winning, when it seems like you're down for the count. God is still there to pick you up, and He has picked me up so many times. And He has walked, hand in hand. Even when I didn't want to hold His hand, He was still there. Even when I ran in the opposite direction of where He was still there, right behind me, right beside me. Um, so yeah, I think that's it for today. If you liked this episode, give it a 5-star review. I hope you gained a little knowledge, about my Lee experience, just in case I don't get a graduation speech. Because my Lee story isn't like everybody's Lee stories. Not every story is the same. Um, mine has my Lee story, and my getting to graduation has been fought hard through trials and tribulations. And when the enemy just came against me, one, hit after the other, um, God strengthened me and helped me persevere even in the midst of affliction. Even in my iniquity, He still came through. So yeah, this is almost a 50-minute episode. So I'm going to stop it there. If you have any questions about any programs, I know more about the music program, obviously. So if you have any questions, DM me on Instagram at Noelle__Janae. If you have any questions about the music and worship program at Lee, you can reach out to us at Lee Music and Worship on Instagram and the Lee University Music and Worship page on Facebook. I'm the social media coordinator, transitioning out and training one of our students who is taking that position officially next semester. So either I or she will respond. Most likely me, because I have more of an eye on the messages and stuff. But yeah, check out the Real Mother Daughter podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts: Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon. Um, Check out our website at therealmotherdaughterpodcast.com, and follow us on the Real Mother Daughter Pod on Instagram. And subscribe to me on YouTube, Noelle Janae. I'm there. I try to upload videos, every couple weeks. I'm actually filming a video right now, but I wanted to just take some time to record this little episode. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great whenever you're listening to this, whether it's in the morning, you're on your way to school, you're on your way to work. Just, be real. Why be new when you can be you? Yes, I reversed that Robots quote, because Robots is a wonderful movie, and I think everybody should watch this. You know what movie I really want to watch, and I need to find it on a streaming service, and that's the Lego Ninjago movie, because I've been quoting it so much, where he's like, Lloyd. It's Lloyd, Dad. Lloyd. I named you. You ruined my life. How could I ruin your life? I wasn't even there. The Lego Ninjago movie. Peak entertainment. Let me tell you. Peak entertainment. Okay. So yeah. I will check y'all in the next one. Bye.